We are back with the hottest twin flames and soulmates. Wonderful Adam and Eve. Of course, they've been going on for thousands of years. Now, what I'm saying here is that if we really want to be seeing how this has gone on or how they have managed to keep their flames alight or their souls connected, then it's important that we follow or learn the story through them. What have they done? What have they learned? What have they got to offer? And Mother Eve has been calling us home to really teach us about this wonderful story. Of course, the story has different layers to it, as though it were a cake with different flavors. But, and of course, like a cake, it takes rice. So basically, were we given the story before it was actually baked? I think we were given the story while it was a mixture, while the dough, the flour was being whisked in the base in the bowl or with all the ingredients. But we hadn't really taken time to understand that the cake in itself it requires a sort of temperature to rise in the oven. Now, this metaphor, it's a metaphor here, really tells me that the story of Adam and Eve is one that has offers different messages. So like in an oven, which is a closed space, it may be lit or it may be dark. Of course, nowadays with our ovens, we do have a light bulb to show us that we can monitor how it rises. And so is the story of Adam and Eve. We can monitor its rise and how it evolves within our psyche. The story that we were given was kind of raw, in a state of, okay, what comes to mind is when my mother used to have the cake mixture and put it in the tray to have it baked, we as the children always wanted to put our fingers in the bowl and have a good lick of that raw mixture. This is what has happened to many of us. The story of Adam and Eve, or the story of Genesis or creation, had been served to us in this exact manner. Like the mixture, we enjoyed it. It was delicious. We would go back for more. And we would not see a cake being baked without wanting to dip our fingers in the bowl and have a good lick. But we must not forget that it requires, the cake, that mixture requires a temperature to get it rising, because it has a rising agent in there. And the rising agent is that secret ingredient, we could say. It's the one that you don't really see. You can taste everything else, pretty much so, but the rising agent itself, well, of course, after a while we can distinguish its taste, but it's almost like oxygen to the cake. So that's what I am saying, that I feel that the story of Adam and Eve does offer a lot of insight if we take the time to digest the essence of it, whether it was vanilla, banana, or almond essence, whatever it was, or spice, nutmeg, mixed spice, whatever it is. It offers us that. And for us to know what we are required or needing, it's good to know where we're at. So the story of Adam and Eve, now we are looking at them. I think what is happening, we are learning a lot through relationships. I think relationships and intimate relationships in particular seem to offer a kind of insight to the makeup of Adam and Eve and the dynamics of our soul's evolution and how we really make sense of our world. Now, I say Adam and Eve in this sense because I feel now we are concentrating, as I say, a lot on soulmate and twin flames relationships. Of course, I feel I have learned so much more of life through having a child. But that, of course, is not the focus here now. The focus here now is to, well, I suppose this on second thought, I think this could really serve on any relationships. It's just relationships as a whole, really. So we get offended in a relationship or have disagreements, and one person decides to stray. Okay, we'll call the stray. Sorry, we say Adam. I am looking at, but it could be Eve. But why I'm saying it is Adam. Eve is the waters that is accommodating. Now, it is nourishing, it is giving, it is nurturing. And we understand that all forms of life come from the waters. So when we examine the scriptures, we see that Eve is really according to Adam, the mother of all living. It was her who said, the said God, she is referred to as the said God in Genesis, of the 14 gods. And she is presented as the third God in Genesis of chapter 1. And we know the number 3 is it's the magic number. This is where we talk about the Holy Trinity as well. So here we see that Eve is always accommodating, right there in this photograph as well, or if we call it, okay, let's not put it down in this sketch that I have done on here. Eve has really, she comes alive anywhere. She's alive. She's the one who says, let the waters bring forth abundant creatures after its kind, that which have life. We see that in Genesis of chapter 1. She's the one, when expressing this right there, although when we hear creatures, we think of just creatures like a cow, a dog, and so on. The word creature really is that we see the word create comes from creature as well. Creature comes from or derived from the word create. So, and we are creatures. We are creatures. So we can see from there on, we tend to think that man was not in existence before going further down to see, well, God made man in his own image and likeness. There was man before. Now, let's not stray from this, but Eve is the one who, as a mother bearing child, would know, oh, my water broke. That's where we get these terms, that her water has broken, so she knows there's a creature that is going to come out of her womb. It's all right for us to use terms in biblical and scriptural ways to say we are creatures of God, or in other terms like that. But if someone was to call you a creature, we would feel offended. But the term was used in that sense, talking of mankind right there, that which have life. And of course, it went on to have whales and fish. And if we even see that the fowl of the air as well had come from the ocean. So we get the clear distinction that all forms of life came from the sea. And of course, where God separated the land from the waters and called the dry land earth, there we see another creation was happening there too. So basically, it seemed like there were scientists around doing the forms of manipulation like they do today. Hence, it is said, there is nothing new under the sun. Now, going back to twin flames, I thought I would just have this here just to show the one of the layers of the cake of Adam and Eve, or how they have risen in our consciousness. So again, talking about the analogy of the oven, it would be where the child is in the oven. Hence, again, this reminds me, like people would say, oh, you've got something in the oven, meaning that you are pregnant. That would be a term used. I don't know how widely this is used, but or they'd say, yeah, a bun in the oven. So these are terms that have been around to help us understand that there is more to the story. But because we have so many inferences and interpretations, we get muddled up and have not taken time to understand this beautiful story of Adam and Eve, our ancestral parents. And I was all about to say our sexual parents, of course, as well. So, of course, the story has the sexual connotation to it, which we probably will discuss another time. So back to the layers of cake as well. In the oven, of course, this is where the cake takes its rise, and a child in the belly is also where the cake is risen. So this would mean that the story where woman came from man has to be questioned. It must be questioned sensibly, and in all essence, let us not be scared to ask the questions. Let us not be afraid like Adam was afraid when God called him in the garden and say, where art thou? Which God should have known where Adam was as well. Now, this is another thing, and it says, oh, I heard your voice and I was naked. Which all of that, it just does not make sense in how we have learned the story. But there are very deep, wonderful, juicy essence to this. Those words were not written lightly at all. They were written with precision. Each word was written with precision. So when it is said in the beginning, God created heaven and earth, we need to be asking, who is God? Which God? Which heaven? Because afterwards we hear of heavens. Heavens. It's like different dimensions, like a cake taking different stages and rising again. So the heavens and the earth. We also discover 14 gods in Genesis. So these 14 gods in Genesis, they take their position as the God who made, the God who saw, the God who blessed, the God who moved, the God who planted, the God who breathed, the God who created, of course, as I have mentioned, the God who formed, the God who divided, the God who called, the God who set, the God who said, which is Mother Eve. The God said is Mother Eve. Mother Eve is the God of language, the God of speech. When it is said in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. These have to be perhaps the most profound revelation of John, I believe, who wrote those words in the New Testament. So, and also when we see about the God who said, which is the God, which is Mother Eve, because the waters waves. They move like waves. They words, water waves, letters. When we talk about words, the letters or words are also waves. There is words. That's why it is said that the tongue is the strongest muscle in the body, because the waves that of words that can be thrown at one. We can see, perhaps it's also said that words are the cause of love and war. So all of those things have deep resonance in our psyche as humankind, as human creatures. Yes. So I really want to talk about this wonderful couple, because I believe when we do get to understand the full dynamics of Adam and Eve and the story, the real story, we'll be able to understand the full essence of what it means to have soulmate, because we can see they still exist through us even today, or twin flames. We would understand more about their makeup in that sense and how they resonate with us, because we are still instrumental in that story. We are instrumental in the manifestation of whatever interpretations that arise. So here I am examining this story of creation and of Adam and Eve. In my own personal journey, I got to a stage having had enough relationships to ask myself, well, what's going on? What is happening? Where do I begin? What am I missing here? And through my writings of The Crimson Light, my autobiographies, volume 1 and 2, I was prompted through what some might call the Holy Spirit, intuition, or my spirit guide, to really examine Genesis of chapter 1. And that was through working on my 6th chapter. In fact, the thing that happened is that I had lost the 6th chapter completely. And that was why I was led to examine Genesis of chapter 1, and which really gave me the opportunity to examine the story of Adam and Eve, and realizing that that was the climax of my concern, to really understand the dynamics of male-female or relationships. And it wasn't just romantic relationships, but it was also any type of relationship. So there's the metaphor or the reality. Just like I lost that 6th chapter, because the number 6 again is the number of man. And there I understood that the language of synchronicity was so profound. Just like I lost that chapter, it's just like Adam and Eve would have had to seem like disobeying God, as we learn, which I won't go too much into this now, but would have had to go through a seeming dark phase to really get to the light. Now, what is important for us to remember is that after the story, meaning the cake had not taken rise yet, of what we had learned, is that God also, we see in Genesis of chapter 2 or 3, where God said, behold, the man have become like us. Do we question who God was talking to and which God was talking? And of course, which man was he referring to, which we believe was Adam? And which of the Adams, because just like there was Eve, there were several Eves, and there were 14 Eves, according to Mother Eve. This is an intuitive teaching that I had. So there was Eves were the aftermath, just like the evening is the aftermath of the day. Eves, Eve, there were many Eves. There were 14 Eves. So now there's something is coming to light here as well. Okay, so there were 14 Eves, and the evening, this is where, as in an oven, that's where things happen. This is where the incubator begins to activate whatever is in the incubator, like the bun in the oven, like the cake in the oven. This is where things are going in to take its rise. And that's what happened with Adam and Eve. They had to go through a process of, and that's the story that we are given. We are given it in a flat state, and the flat state is what is called the lie. When something is flat, it is laid on the floor, that it's lies, it's a lie. So when we hear of the lie, and we are told that Satan was a liar, Satan is a liar, we need to understand the story. Mother Eve is Satan, yes. Like a mother or any sensible mother, she does not give you everything. She does not give you a hot meal that's going to burn you. She does not serve you a big piece of cake that or shove a big piece of cake in your mouth that you can't chew on. So she cuts it in bite sizes. That's what Satan does to us. And we call it a lie. Yes, it is a lie, but it is there to help us grow, to teach us, to take, to digest the essence and to stand up, because this is how we know how strong we are. This is how we know our makeup. This is how we know what we are made of. This is how, even in the story of Christ, we are told when the devil went up, well, if it's the devil or Satan, I'm not quite sure the words used, but the words are very important that we pay attention to, because it's a numerical value. So Satan equals 10. I believe it's 10, yes. So just like heaven equals 10. So there is a relationship between Satan and heaven. And we were told that Satan was from heaven. So that means that it's like a step ladder. There is no, you could look at a step ladder and put it against a wall, and you step on that ladder, which has two steps to it, and you climb up till you get to your heaven. And of course, and then you can drop it down back on the floor and make it lie on the floor, or if you like. But when you're ready to rise, to take your rise, the ladder had to be erected up. And that's what the serpent is about. The serpent lies low. It's like a snake on the ground. That's what Mother Eve had been to us. Like a mother playing with her child, helping the child crawl, and she encourages the child to take its first step. She holds the child's hand and says, come on, you can do it. And the child will try, and the child will fall, and the child rises up again. We need to acknowledge the essence and beauty of this story that we have had about Mother Eve and Adam. Now, there is much to say on Adam, but because we have strayed so far, And Mother Eve has been calling us like she has been calling Adam back home. Come home. There is much to learn. Come home. Let me show you. Let me teach you. This is why I still exist. This is what she is saying. How do you feel? I think I still exist this day. I want you to see, I want you to understand the way of life. It's about the chakras. She's talking about the chakras. There's the root chakra. She's saying when I gave you the cake that hadn't been risen, it was to serve as the bedrock. It's the foundation. It's like going to school and learning ABC or 1, 2, 3, 4 till we get to 10. It is the alphabet. It is the numbers. It is and those things serve as anchor. It is necessary. It was necessary that we have that story. But let's not sit on our butts or scratch our buttocks and say, oh, well, that's what we were served and that's it. We have the opportunity to now take our rise, take our position. This is what Mother Eve is calling us to do. Slice the cake if necessary. Serve it if necessary. Share it. Taste it. And discover the different taste or flavors. Decorate it if you want. Do what is necessary to grasp the full essence of this wonderful story. That is why Mother Eve is calling. She's saying, come back home. And she's always ready she's always ready. Now, even when that doesn't mean that you go on doing things and there are no consequences, because the reason why you are able, like the prodigal son, to come back home, the reason why you were able to do that is because you had encountered the opposite side of Mother Eve wherever you were at, like the swine, like that creature, like finding yourself on the street and like being scorned or like being bullied. Whatever it is, that's why people, they have sticks and they poke snakes. They poke at the snake or they hold the snake. All sorts of things, because Mother Eve is the snake. She is the snake and she is the serpent on the tree of life, meaning she is also the tree of life. So there is much to be said here, but Mother Eve is looking so happy to see Adam, and this is why she's got that gentle touch. She gently strokes his cheek, and it's like saying, thank you for coming back, for hearing my call. Thank you. And Adam may not even know that the voice that he was hearing was really Eve's, when she was saying, come home, because she was feeling his pain. She was feeling his desolation. She was feeling that he really doesn't get it, she's thinking. I wish you get it. I wish you really get it. And so that's why she knew that she wanted more for him than crawling on the floor like he was still a toddler. No mother really wants their child to continue being a toddler the rest of their life. And while they enjoyed crawling on the floor with the child when the child was a toddler, they really don't wish that for them for the rest of their lives. The stage of development, or the stages of development, is the cake. There are different stages to the cake. Now, this is just really, to me, wonderful. I love to witness Adam coming back home. I love to witness this union. It is wonderful. And although Eve's eyes are shut, And I think they are shut in a way. Of course, she goes into her soul, but going into her soul, her third eye is activated. And his eye, we can see it's like they are focused on her third eye area. And I think he gets it. I hope he gets it. There's a smile on his face. Well, he gets something anyway. Whatever it is, he gets something. So do join me again. I am Crimey Queen. And if you love this video, give us a thumbs up and do share it. Because I think we all can do with trying to understand the dynamics of the soul and of our flames, our twin flames, and the passion that burns within us. Thank you. Let there be light, in the words of the said God, Mother Eve, and there was light.